All right, everyone. It's Thursday and time for another edition of Forward Progress. And I'm so happy to have my friend Nicole Rollender on here. So I've known Nicole for a couple of years. She's kind of a journalist and stuff. She's interviewed me for I don't even know how many articles over the years. How many articles do you think you've interviewed me?
Man, Marshall, like not hundreds, but probably close. You have a lot to say.
Getting me to shut up. Getting me to shut up is usually the hard part. So before we get going here, I want to properly introduce you, and I want to give you a chance to kind of tell everyone who you are. So just give everybody the 411 about Nicole.
All right. Well, I am from New Jersey, streaming live from there now. I always love saying that. I've been a journalist and a content marketer for a number of years, covering the decorated apparel industry, chiefly among some others. And 3 years ago, I launched my own digital creative writing firm called Strand Writing Services. We're coming up on 3 years now, and I work with a lot of apparel companies, a lot of companies in the decorated apparel space, and I just help them with their copy and content needs and their strategy, and really help them get the word out about their business and all the good stuff they're doing in the world.
Yeah. So thanks for that. And I want everybody to know that's watching. This is a Q&A thing. So please ask Nicole questions about how to do publicity or PR or how to do stuff. We've got a lot to talk about today, but we want to help you. Nicole wants to help you, right, Nicole? You want to help these people.
I do, Marshall. Yeah, I'm really excited about this topic, and I could talk about this.
Right. And also, if you're not watching live, if you're watching recording, because I know that's where we get most of our viewers, just leave a comment or a question and tag Nicole or tag me, and I'll make sure we get the answer to you. Because I know some people watch on Facebook, some people watch on YouTube. So it's really important that we're helping you. That's why I do this, and that's why Nicole's here. So, and if you're watching live, please say hello.
Say hello, please.
Say hello. Who are you? Where are you watching from? And then what type of marketing or public relations or whatever advertising issues that you have. Let's get those questions out, okay? So please say hi, okay? So you ready to get started?
I am ready, Marshall.
All right. Here is our first topic, which is content is king. So Nicole, I mean, you have to think up the greatest article ever or the greatest PR plan ever all the time. So what are your top tips for just getting these new ideas created? What do you do?
Yeah, so that sounds kind of stressful, right? But you're totally right. Content's king, queen, and the whole court, right? Like, so I was just reading a stat that like more than half of the people who are out there right now are consuming more and more content because of COVID, and they're actually looking to brands to inspire them and give them hope for the future, so that they can connect, right? So content is like super, super important. So I nerded up a little bit, Marshall. I told you this. I wrote down a bunch of tips. I got them over here on my phone. So because I really want to give everybody out there some really good ideas. And like he said, if you have questions, please pop them in. I can see them like scrolling right now, comments, questions, all of that. Okay, so the first thing that I say that if you're a business owner, right, the first thing you should do is crowdsource, like get your employees together. So maybe we're not doing it in person, but do it virtually. Ask them, on their own time to make a list of the 15, say, coolest things about your business, right? So it can be decorating techniques. It can be a way that you serve your customers. It can be a nonprofit that you're involved with. It could be a cause that you support. It could be some celebrity connection that you have, like maybe a celebrity wore a shirt that you decorated, if you're doing band merch and it was on Instagram, right? There's so many different things. And I think sometimes we don't realize because it's in front of us, like how cool it is to somebody else. If you have a cool founding story, I mean, if one of your employees is doing something really cool on their own time, right? There's so many things. Were you part of Here for Good, right? There were a lot of decorators doing that. That had a lot of traction. You really want to find your unique stories. So, and I know you wrote something about this on your blog, Marshall, where you said no idea, like make the list as long and expansive as you can, right? Make the list as long as you can. And so if you can bring your employees together in a virtual meeting and they've submitted over their ideas to you, then you just kind of have that running, and you really start getting almost like a bird's eye view of what your shop does that's really unique, that's going to be newsworthy and exciting.
Yeah. And another great idea that's just like that is to also ask your customers. And here's a great question to ask is, hey, Mr. Customer, why do you do business with me?
Yep.
And then they'll tell you. And if you ask enough of them, right, let's say you asked 10 customers and 4 of them gave you the same answer, what do you think should show up in your next marketing piece, right? That's an easy way of doing that. And just because of whatever they said, that's what you should be talking about in your marketing.
Yeah, and piggybacking on that, I just created a couple surveys for one of my clients, and the survey asks, why do you do business with me? What are your biggest problems? How can I help you? And so you can almost put together a list of like FAQs that you can answer, and the surveys can go out, while you're working with them. It can go out. They should always go out at the end when you're not, when you're done working with them, and ask for a testimonial or some kind of video testimonial. So that's always really important. Case studies, we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but I was going to say case studies are like huge. So if you're working in a particular industry and, you really want to work that vertical, the more stories that you have, either written out or accompanied with video. What I've noticed a lot of people doing is doing like the way that we're doing this recording, right? They get on and they talk to their clients. So I recently invested in a business course, and I watched like 4 of these interviews with the course creator and the clients that she had helped. And then there was, so that's also a really good way to share a story, get word out about your client, but it's also sort of a sales technique, because like you say, stories are super powerful. That builds trust with your clients, potential clients.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So we got some people saying hello. Yost is saying hello, and Nicole, believe it or not, he's calling in from Sweden.
Very cool.
Ruben says hi from Chicago, and our buddy Ron says hi from Boston, where it's always a good day. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate you, buddy. So anyway, one of the things I like doing is when I'm looking at content is I'm paying attention to what the customers are saying, what I see as a problem, my frequently asked questions. And one thing that's always helped me is putting these ideas somewhere. And I have a spreadsheet that goes out months for blog article ideas, different ideas I might want to do for videos or whatever. And I write these down. And then if I'm like, okay, I got a minute, what's my next thing? It's like, okay, there you go. It's already there. And you can move these around and you can play with them a little bit. But if you don't write stuff down, what happens is, I had that great idea last night. What was it?
Right. And that's also, that leads into another important point, like consistency. Like you post you blog every week, you do your podcast. So if you have your spreadsheet and you know exactly what you're going to write every week, then it gets easier and easier. And then the other thing that I love to say is, you're going to write, say, a blog post, right? So at the same time, build out 3 or 4 social posts that support that. Like find nuggets of information and build out social posts, find cool images, record a quick video, right? So you've got your one idea, and then you kind of build it out into some different, ways of looking at it. I mean, even if there's stats, you could build an infographic. There's so many ways you can sort of take that same information and parcel it out into different formats that people will consume. And of course, put it on LinkedIn, put it in your groups, use something like Hootsuite or Buffer or, Facebook. You can use the creator tool to easily schedule onto Instagram and, Facebook.
Yeah. And don't forget that if you create a post, let's say about the top tips for creating holiday stuff for your corporate gifts or something, right?
Yeah.
This is evergreen content that next year is just going to be just as relevant, right? So you can invest the time and effort into stuff, and then you could be using it from now on, right? And then next year, maybe you do another one, and over time, this can become a downloadable ebook,
Absolutely. And I think also there's another thing, listicles are huge. And so if you create, like, here's the top 10, ways you can decorate a t-shirt for the holidays or something like that. And you have images that then you build out, you can make a slideshow, you can make it into an ebook. People don't realize how easy it is to use a tool like Canva to make an ebook, right? I mean, I made one in probably 90 minutes. It's actually, I have a blogging ebook with the basics on my website that people can download. But there's so many ways. People say, oh my gosh, I'm not a writer, or I don't have time to write, but they don't realize that you can write like a page in Word and build that out into so many different, formats, I guess.
Well, my response is to people who say, hey, I'm not a writer, I can't write, is, well, you can talk, can't you?
Yes.
And so just find a transcription service and just talk about your company, get all of that transcribed, edit out the stuff that doesn't sound right, and fix it. And then guess what? There's a whole article you just didn't even really write. You just spoke and it became words. And
yes, I did that for a client where he would record videos, send me the transcriptions, and I would edit them. And so really kick-ass blogs. And then we had the videos.
Right.
So somebody could watch or listen or read, right? Like you're hitting all three.
All right. Here's topic 2.
All right.
Best publicity tricks for getting newspapers or magazines, and I'll also say TV stations. I forgot to put that in there. Interested in there, because what we want is these communication giants interested in my business. So Nicole, how do I get that going? Because I'm just a small business. Nobody pays attention to me. What do I need to do?
So obviously you started with your list of cool things. And so you have a bunch of cool things that your business is doing. Then it's getting over the fear of, I don't have anything to say or nobody cares, because it becomes a numbers game, right? So I would say start out with industry publications. Like, do the editors know you're alive, right? Do they know your business exists? So if you write an email to all of the industry publications saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, this is my business, here's what we do, I'm available for comments, I'm available for columns, I can submit over photos, suddenly you're on their radar. And I will tell you, as a former magazine editor-in-chief, finding people to be awesome sources like you, Marshall, was very difficult because people are busy, right? So it's pretty simple to write a little letter of introduction. Honestly, the 2 most important things are writing an interesting subject line and personalization, right? I don't want to get a spammy feeling blanket email. I want it to say, Dear Nicole. I wanted to maybe mention my publication, maybe a detail about some reason that I love watching the publication. And then you can build that out into your local, newspapers, digital publications, TV stations. It's a similar thing, reaching out and just giving them a little taste of what you have to offer. You record lots of videos, so you could include a link to a video. You had mentioned before about, like, say, Super Bowl, say you were screen printing t-shirts for the Super Bowl. If, that's a hot, event. And so you can reach out and say, this is what we're doing. Feel free to come in. We'll send you video. I think it's really about thinking about the spread, like how far you could possibly reach, and not being afraid. I also, if you think about, there may be some suppliers on here, so feel free to chime in. But I just, off the top of my head, was thinking, Marshall, you do the Success Stories podcast for SNS Activewear. Bella Canvas did a series called Press On with some other industry companies where they interviewed decorators during COVID. Gildan has the Board of Decorators blog, and every quarter or so they look for decorators to kind of come in and offer their expertise. So people are looking for experts, and there's so many levels of experts in this industry, right? Like, you're a decorated apparel expert, you're an artwork and graphics expert, you're a marketing solutions expert, you may have expertise in specific niches, like healthcare or education, you're expert at running a business, so there's so many levels of experts. So before I get off on a tangent of talking too much, I would just say that, right.
It's a talk show, Nicole. There's no such thing.
Well, so I'm just saying, but if you think about it in terms of levels, right? Like industry publications, your local media, you think about sort of then returning to the industry, but then going a little deeper into podcasts, video series, trade shows, whether it's virtual or in person. Can you apply to be an educator, right? Because there's that. Even reaching out to someone like you, who's an industry expert and has coaching services and a platform. Maybe I reach out to you and say, Marshall, I'm this decorator and I just did this amazing thing in this niche with fleece. I want to share my story and I want people to know about it. You're going to be like, yeah, come on.
Right.
So it's really about, again, identifying what you're really good at, how many stories you have to tell, and then really just reaching out and making yourself available. And there's a chance that you may not get responses right away, but keep doing it. Keep reaching out. Help her out.
Yeah, and then I got to tell you, this is because all you had to do, Nicole, was send me an email, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go. Here's the time that we can do it. I always made time for you, right? And I do that with all the other publications also, right?
Because the value of being. Okay, you're an expert, but you also take it a step further. No matter how busy you are, you take the time to share your expertise. So you're helping others, but you're also then growing your reach. And that's the other thing too. The more publicity you get, if somebody Googles me, they'll see page after page after page of, different things that I've done, just different media and things like that. Same thing with you, obviously. So the more you do, it compounds it. It's kind of like a really cool blog. If it goes viral, the more, if somebody Googles you and they see page after page, say, oh, this person is an expert. They really know what they're doing. So you start somewhere. Right. Also talked about Help a Reporter Out. A lot of people don't know what that is.
I have this up. We can look at it. So I'm that's going to fill the screen up here.
Okay. And I will tell everybody what that is. So HelpAReportercom is a free service where you do have to sign up for an account, but 2 to 3 times a day, you get emails with queries from reporters. Sometimes they are anonymous, but most of the time they'll list the publication. And they ask all kinds of stuff like, we're looking for someone to comment on business, we're looking for products, and you can go through and you can respond with your comments. Now, I've said this before, you may not get through every single time because they do get a lot of responses, but I'll give you a really good example. A new apparel company for foodies, Good Grub Love, the founder was telling me that she wanted to get her foodie t-shirts and other sort of artwork into the hands of some bloggers. And I said, well, if you go on Help a Reporter, there's a lot of gift guides being created right now. And within about a week, she had commitments from 7 bloggers to include her t-shirts in their blogs. And then you see there where it says media outlets using Haro. If you have a website, which I'm sure all of you do, you can start putting logos of the places that you appear. So that's another way to add credibility. So if, the Chicago Tribune, if a writer there quotes you, you can suddenly say, appearing in, and then there you have it. Mm-hmm. So it is a little time consuming to kind of scroll through, but honestly, it's one of the most direct ways. If you want to be in the New York Times, you have to go to the site, you have to look at all the editors, you have to find individual writers and reach out to them with your pitches. So Haro is sort of like they're coming to you. It's an aggregated way to find really good opportunities.
Right. And remember, we're in this industry, we're entrepreneurs, we're small business owners, we have staff, we're dealing with the pandemic, we deal with our customer base, and that could be bars, restaurants, schools, all types of stuff. So when they're looking for an angle, right, you might be the other source for the story they're writing about, mm-hmm. because you have a unique perspective that they're looking for that makes their little piece that they're writing more interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, as business owners, decorators, you're in the trenches. You're doing so many things and talking to so many people. And that's why I said I think it's looking at what you're doing with fresh eyes and being excited about what you have to offer.
Right. And the one thing and one of the reasons why I wanted you on here today, Nicole, is I think a lot of business owners are really timid. They don't think their business is, I'm not $1 million business, so nobody cares about me. Right. And that's not true, because people are interested in other people. And the reason we consume media, we read that newspaper article or that magazine article, most of the time is because they're talking about other people. And you're a person and you have value. And as a person, Nicole, you wrote these articles, right? You want that compelling little thing that's going to spice up your article and make it really come alive. And if somebody has that story to tell, you want to be able to tell it regardless of who they are, right?
Right. People care about stories, and they care about tips, and they care about conflict and overcoming problems. And so I do write a lot of content for companies where I interview people and bring the problems and solutions alive. And so I got to be honest with you. I mean, I've been in the decorated apparel industry for almost 15 years, and I never get tired of talking to decorators and hearing their stories and sharing the stories. And people, like we talk about case studies, right? People want to know how you solve problems. Nobody, right. They want detail. They want specifics, actuality, right? And so you have that. I mean, it's happening in your shop every day. You're solving problems for your customers.
Mm-hmm.
That's so I think it's, and again, this is the other thing. My business, I get all of my clients mostly, like, because I'm new, baby business still, through cold pitching. And I used to be afraid to send emails to CEOs. And it was like, and at one point I said, who cares? They're just people like me, and they may be interested in what I have to say. And if they're not, that's okay. And I got over my fear of it. I mean, it's also about, if I'm looking for sources for a story, I'm going to reach out to more people than I need, because people are going to be busy. So right. Be afraid. And honestly, yes, editors may get a lot of emails, but if you are what they need at that moment, they are going to be, calling you or emailing you right away, or they'll reach out when they do need you. So do not be afraid. It is a numbers game. There's nothing to fear when you send an email.
Right.
Bad will happen.
And I got to tell you, you don't have to wait for their permission to do this.
Correct.
Right? at one point in my career, I had never written a blog article before. I'd never done a podcast before. I'd never done a YouTube video before. I never interviewed people before. There's a lot of new things, and you just have to not worry about what other people think and just do it and be happy to stub your toe and make mistakes, because that's how you're going to learn. And the challenge is really just showing up and doing it and being okay with, I kind of suck at it, but I don't care. It's just like, and do it.
Just do it. Nike, right? Just do it. Yeah.
I mean, I would argue that I'm not the best interviewer, but I'm the best Marshall Atkinson I can be, right? So.
And people follow you and they look forward to the content. And when you start building up your blog and people start realizing, your customer base, when they realize that you're going to give them marketing solutions every week, they're going to start tuning in. And then Facebook's going to prompt them to say, yes, notify me when, Marshall or Nicole is live, and they will, and you will watch your numbers grow. Yeah.
Well, you just got to start. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So right now you might be watching, and I'm talking to you, Alan Howe, you might be watching, and you've been talking about doing a podcast for over a year now, and you still haven't done it. So that's you, buddy. You don't need permission. Just do it. And this is my friend Alan. So
hey, Alan.
I'm making fun of him publicly on the show, and he'll get me back tomorrow because we have a show together every Friday. All right. So the third thing here is favorite tip for getting more publicity or attention. Right. So what do we need? Do we need to set stuff on fire? I mean, how do we
no,
get
I mean, you're either you can go back to the list that we talked about earlier. but you could do something cool in your shop. Like you could host, a virtual open house. You could host some sort of virtual summit. You could bring together some thought leaders, in your space and invite, and this is all virtual, right? Like invite your customers to come on for a special VIP event where you talk about things that affect them and then let them ask questions. There's so many things that you can do. Another one of my clients, her uncle was a teacher, and he worked a lot with at-risk students who may not get to college. And then he actually passed away very suddenly of a heart attack when he was quite young. And so she started a foundation that also had a 5K race, and the 5K race would be on his birthday, and they raised money for scholarships. And I remember saying to her, like, this is a pretty big deal. We should talk about this. And she's like, why? And I was like, what do you mean why? You're in the local community, you're doing this, you have local sponsors. And so then she realized how even things that she was already doing, and she was doing it for personal reasons, that people cared about it. People cared. And then also even students who were like, maybe I can't get to college, but there's scholarships through this, I can apply. Like, so suddenly that's benefiting them too by getting the word out. So it's not, it can also be altruistic or helping other people, and I think sometimes people feel, it's all about me, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. If you're supporting a cause, if you're doing fundraising, I think it's really important to talk about that, on your website, if you donate a portion of the proceeds and, to that cause or that nonprofit, and there's an event or there's a time of year, like breast cancer awareness obviously is October, there's different things. I think it's important to talk about it. And yes, it's about your business, but I think that there's so many things happening all the time. We said Super Bowl, but there's so many events throughout the year that you may be doing really cool things or special things around that local media, even TV stations, may care about. People love seeing the machines printing or embroidering. They're fascinated.
Oh yeah. Let me tell you.
They love seeing it.
What we do in a shop is so fascinating. It's like watching the pizza being made, right? It's like Nobody knows, how do they throw the dough up in the air? It's like, how do you print a shirt? Nobody, or how do you embroider, or how do you get that design on the face mask? Nobody knows how we do this stuff. It's super fascinating. So you can invite people in and they'll show them how you do it. And let me tell you, that newspaper, that magazine, that TV station, they are flat out running out of ideas, and they want to stop talking about the election for a minute sometimes, right? They want to show other things. And so a human interest story or what people are doing is interesting sometimes. And so you just have to give them a compelling reason about what you're doing and what matters and why other people should care. And that's just really just simply writing something up and sending it in.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about how to write a press release real quick, because I think people know, and I've heard that term before, but they don't necessarily know how to write it, the format, who to actually send it to, why do they even need it? Like, just give us the basic kindergarten level of what a press release does, so everybody can understand why they should use this for their business.
Right. So of course you can go online and you can find templates for press releases and see examples. I like to think of a press release as almost creating the story for an editor or a writer. So you're going to have an interesting headline. You're going to have 1 or 2 line deck that goes underneath that, sort of summarizing the story. And then you're going to basically just write the story. And you're going to include quotes from yourself. Now, the stereotype of the press release is it's marketing language and it's hard to decipher, and you can't just drop it into a magazine or onto a website. And so when I approach press releases, I write them like an article that could just be dropped in, that's accessible, that's interesting. A good example is that someone I know created a really cool program about her local town's history. And she said to me, I want to write a press release, but I don't know where to start. So we worked on it together, and it turned into this really cool story where she essentially wrote it like she was writing it to a friend, like she was writing it as a blog with quotes from herself. And it came out really, really good. And so who do you send it to? Well, editors, journalists, writers. If you have photos, you can attach it. I just like to think of it as taking it down a notch from, like I said, the stereotype of it having to be super formal and super jargony and super, I don't know, like elevated in a sense. I feel like you want to write the story. You want to bring the humanness in. You want to bring, you want to show solutions. You want to include quotes that could be actually used in the context of an article, not, something that sounds like somebody, like a robot wrote it. So I think that when you write it the way you would like to see it written to you, as if you were picking up a newspaper or a magazine. And of course, share it with people if you know a writer or an editor, share it with them. Like I said, I worked with someone who wrote the draft and she shared it with me and I cleaned it up, and she actually has gotten 4 articles about her in this new program in probably the last month. So it doesn't work. You just like we keep saying, you just have to do it.
And I'll tell you, I've written, I mean, I don't even know how many press releases over the years. And it's really weird quoting yourself. So,
but think about this, write the way you speak. Write the way you speak.
Yeah. So I just would write something and put it in. And sometimes I would write like maybe, a friend or, industry person or whatever. I go, hey, I'm writing this press release. Here's the quote that you're going to give in the press release. Is this okay?
People love when you...
And they would say, yeah, that's fine. And I wanted to let them know before it came out, right? And so I've done that. And you just send it in. And almost always, it's just verbatim. Whatever I wrote, that's what's in the magazine and or the newspaper. And if you... but, I write fairly okay, I guess. And so it's like I make it easy for them to print it.
That's exactly it. And Marshall, if the story is there and say there aren't as many details as they need, or they need a new lead to be interesting, they'll contact you and they'll get it. That's their job. The easier you make it for them, the more likely it is that they will publish it.
Right. So it's reducing the friction.
Right.
So
easy.
Okay, so here's our last topic, just to wind us up here. So we got about 12 minutes left. Did I skip one? We did this one. Content, tricks, favorite tip, writer's block. Oh, I skipped over that one. Right.
That's okay. I think this is a good one to end on.
So writer's block avoidance, how to get started. I know my favorite tip, but I want to hear what yours is.
Okay. So I'm just saying, I'm a writer. I'm content and copywriter, and I'm also a creative writer, poetry. And people say, oh, you sit down and it's this magical thing that happens. But writing is actually one of the hardest things to do because it's a solitary activity. There's a lot of self-doubt. People get blocked. It's a real thing. It happens. So I just have like a few down and dirty tips, right? So one is you just have to do it. I mean, again, it sounds like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know that, but really it is like you just have to sit down and you have to do it. So what I like to do is use the Pomodoro technique, which if you don't know what that is, you set a timer for 25 minutes, you shut down your email, shut down your social, and all you do is write. And it's amazing because you're monotasking, you are totally in the flow. And when that timer goes off, you're kind of like, sometimes you're almost like, because you're so focused. And that getting in that routine, maybe picking the same time every day, maybe doing it outside where, you're not going to get distracted by something that's happening around you, somebody who's in your house, your dog. I actually looked at a bunch of articles to see if there was any magic writer's block tip that I was missing, but it really honestly comes down to sitting down and doing it and sitting down and focusing to do it. You had mentioned before about kind of changing up routines and stuff. Sometimes people like to walk and then talk into their phone. And that's a way that they generate ideas, which feels more natural as well, because what I've noticed that happens with people is that they sit down to write and they start writing this weird, like formal, passive voice stuff that doesn't even sound like them. But when they actually write like they speak, or they speak like the way that they write, that sort of opens the floodgates. So I think doing those things are probably the three biggest ways that I break through the writer's block. And we also said too, we've talked about crappy first drafts. It's very rare that you sit down and write something and it's exactly what you end up publishing. It happens, but it's very rare. We always go back and we self-edit, or someone else edits us. So just realize that even the best writers out there, they have to edit, and they have editors, and so it's a craft, it's a process. So
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Right.
Exactly. I publish a blog every Saturday, and a lot of people go, "Oh my gosh, how do you do all that?"
Yeah.
And it's because I write every day, and for 30 minutes. And it's when I'm jacked up on some coffee.
Well, you could do that too. But your blog sounds the way that you speak. Like when I interview you and then I read your blog, I'm like, this is Marshall. I mean, and so it feels like a conversation. It feels like if somebody reads it, like you're talking to them.
Well, I've improved over the years. So if you go back to some of my older articles, they're stiffer.
Yeah.
Not as loose, I think. And so, and I refined how I do it, like, continuous improvement. I like talking about that. And here's how I do it is I start off, and this is exactly how your English teacher wanted you to do it in 6th grade, probably. I start off with an outline.
Yep.
So what do I want to say? What's the introductory idea to get people interested? What's paragraph 1? What is that about? Paragraph 2, what is that about? Right. And I fill that out. And
that's a really good way to do it, because you have, or here's the main point that I want to make, or this is the end point that I want to make. And so what are the 5 supporting things that I need to tell people? What do they need to know?
Yep. And I fill that out, and that's Monday, and I'm done for Monday. And then on Tuesday, I write the introduction and the paragraph, and sometimes it's the whole thing. It just depends on how it flows out, right? But by Wednesday or Thursday, the article's finished, and then I like to put it away. And then Friday is final draft day, so tomorrow's final draft day for tomorrow's article. And then what I'll do is I'll reread it. And I'll go, do I sound like a jackass? Is there a dumb thing in here? What do I need to do? And I'm looking for, and I use Grammarly. So all those mistakes are not even in there anyway, right? And so I just go through and I change some stuff up, and I try to, make a point a little stronger, or maybe take a sentence out or whatever. And then I publish. And then I think the secret to doing that is what I call, you got to birth the baby. Right. If you, the Steve Jobs quote, which is, done is better than perfect. Right. So none of anything I've ever done in my life, I think is perfect. I can always improvement, but what I want is completion and
consistency. And you do it every week. And the more you do it, the better it gets. I do this kind of weird thing where when I have a draft, I email it to myself, and I feel like I create some distance between myself, and then it comes in a different font, and then I read it, and it almost helps me to be like a third person observer. And then as I go through, when I hit something that I'm like, oh, I need a different word, or I need to take out this point, I make those changes, and then I resend it to myself.
Yeah.
And that's helped me a lot.
That's a great idea. Sometimes I've actually got on the phone with somebody and would read a paragraph and go, how does this sound?
Right.
And because I'm really wanting to drive home a certain point, or I'm really worried about my tone, because sometimes tone can come across weird in the written word, and you're not intending something. It's just how somebody's going to read it. And so I think that's important. But I think the most important thing about writing is just writing. And that's also true of video. That's also true of doing a podcast. It's also true about anything, right?
Right.
The only way you're going to learn how to bake lasagna is to really make some crappy lasagnas until you learn how to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I started with videos years ago, and I remember doing like 17 takes for my first video. It was a nightmare, and and then I got so much more comfortable at it, and then I realized people don't care if there's a foible, and then you can make a blooper reel. You can make a funny blooper reel, and then you can put that on social media. But people care, like you're a subject matter expert, and that's what people care about. They want you to help them solve their problems. And so the more you think about it in terms of service to people, your customers, it almost makes it easier because you're not like, I've got to write this blog, and you're thinking, I want to help them solve this problem. And I come at it from that way. And if you even think about, because I write emails for clients sometimes, and I think I'm writing this to one person. Who is that person? Whose problem am I solving? I write it to them like I'm writing it to them, and it comes out so much more genuine and natural, and the flow is better. And I think sometimes getting in that mindset too, instead of like, I got to sit down and write a term paper. I got to write when you think about it in that way, it reduces it to I'm writing this to one particular person who I really want to help right now because I have the solution to this problem that they're having, and it's keeping them excited. And if I can help them, then I've done something good in the world. Yeah.
And Ron says that you can have your computer read it back to you.
Yes.
And on my blog, I have Amazon Polly hooked up. So my blogs instantly turn into a podcast. And, so it's got the computer voice. And actually I got a comment the other day. It's like, well, that computer voice sounds really, kind of artificially, I'm like, it is what it is. I mean, until they invent it better, the service, it's Amazon free for my blog. I'm happy with that.
But what if I want to go on my treadmill and I want to listen to you, Marshall? Like then
you can do that.
I can. And so think about it that way too. Multimedia, like, so someone wants to read, some people want to watch a video, some people want to listen. People want to watch videos with, subtitles. I mean, closed captioning. So think about that too. Think about how many ways can you put content out there so people can digest it the way that they want to and when they want to.
Right. Well, cool. So before we go, if you guys got I don't see any questions here. So
that means we did a good job, right?
Is that what that means?
We covered everything. Although I could talk about this for 3 more hours. Like I have more notes we could go on.
Right. So what's the hidden trick, tip, hack, whatever word you want to use that you haven't shared yet that you want somebody to know before we go?
I think the number one thing is self-confidence and acting in service. I kind of touched on these things, but as a business owner, one thing that I've learned is that your mindset and the way that you approach things is so important. And so confidence that you have something to share and something to offer. And then also getting, like I just talked about, the mindset of service, that you're not going out necessarily to brag. You're going out to help customers. You're going out to help other people. You're going to do some good in the world. And I think that when you approach it from that angle, it doesn't feel so strange when you go to write your first press release about how your business is, helping a local, animal shelter or a food shelter or something like that, or a food bank. I think that the mindset has to be there first. And then it's easier to actually do the things that get you there.
Well, I think to some degree, even me, I feel sometimes that I'm an imposter, right? It's
that is so common for writers, right?
Why does anybody need to hear anything from me? Who is this guy? And so I struggle with that. I know other people do also. And it's like, we're our own people. And you just have to say, I am worth something. I think other people are interested in other things that I have to say. And I'm just going to put it out there, and I'm not really going to worry about it. And you just got to do it, right? And the more that you do it, the better you're going to get at it, I think. And here you go. Cindy says, she's an embroiderer, by the way. She's listening on YouTube, and she's sewing, and she wants us to know it's a great show. So,
see, multitasking. You can, yeah. Thank you.
So if this was a written article, you couldn't have consumed the information. That's why it's important to have multiple channels, I think, right? So
yeah.
All right. Well, great. Well, so Nicole, what are you working on right now? Anything fun?
You know, I'm actually creating a whole bunch of email sequences that, oh, this is cool. One is called the Addictive Daily Emails. And so if you send emails, say 22 business days a month, and you're building, value for your customers and trust, then you're going to be there when they're ready to buy. So I think the stats like 7 to 13 interactions before they buy. So if you do that, you'll be there. And the reason that I'm excited about it is because I've got all these cool types of emails, like the humble brag, the song lyric, the sweet little lies email. And people, I think, if they were to sit down and write a bunch of emails, would be freaked out. But there are sort of these cool prompts that I use to write on behalf of clients, like sharing knowledge and information and value. So I'm actually putting together these like fun packages, and I'm making these videos about them and around them. So I'm kind of excited about getting that stuff out there into the world, because I think, again, you can do it yourself. You can hire a marketing person, you can hire a creative, you can hire a marketing agency, just the way that people hire decorators because they're experts. You can hire people to help you and who can help you grow your brand through those different channels. But email is super exciting to me because it's like, I think the top, like one of the top ways right now that people are reaching their customers.
Right. Yeah. And full disclosure to everyone watching or listening, Cindy, I've hired Nicole. Nicole actually does stuff for me sometimes. And so I hired her to help me with my book, Moving Past Disaster, on doing some different things. And she's done a phenomenal job for me. So, that's a cool thing. Right. And so anyway, wanted to share your email address, Nicole. So if somebody has a question or anything, here's Nicole's email. I'm sure Nicole would be happy to help you, or you can ask her a question or find out more about how she can help your business, right? You're all about that, Nicole, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I can talk about this stuff all day. So I'm always about paying it forward and helping other business owners myself. So yeah, please email me, visit my website if you'd like. You can, if you sign up for my email list, you get a really cool email, and you can download an ebook that I created about blogging, how easy it is to start a blog with some prompts.
And this is her web page right here. And let me tell you, so Nicole, she's been in this industry for a long time, so she understands our secret language
and the clients,
right? So
yeah.
So so if you're as opposed to hiring some marketing person who they're going whatever, right? Nicole knows our pain and our struggles. So anyway, so thank you so much today, Nicole, for your time. You were awesome. And I also want to thank everybody who's here live with us now. Thank you so much. And I'm sure Alan's going to take it out on our show tomorrow on me for making fun of him in front of everyone. And that's it. So if you're watching this recorded, please leave a comment or ask a question and tag either myself or Nicole, and we'll happily help you with whatever your question has. All right. Thanks, everyone.